He started the year off terrible. Weeks 1 through 5, he was the 24th best quarterback. But weeks 7 through 17, he was the second best quarterback, only behind Patrick Mahomes. Now that's great company to keep. Good afternoon, Bay Nation. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Bay. I'm your host, Mike Williams, and today we're going over my top 10 fantasy football quarterbacks for 2023 in 4-point scoring touchdown league. If you're interested in 11 through 20, check right up here. Starting off tier 1, quarterback 1, Josh Allen. Josh Allen is an incredible dual threat quarterback. He gets it done not only in the air, but also on the ground. Most quarterbacks that run anywhere close to as much as Josh Allen don't also throw it as much as Josh Allen. He's had back-to-back years with 760 or more rushing yards, all while throwing it for over 4,000 yards and 35 or more touchdowns. If that's not elite, I don't know what is. He's had 6 or more rushing touchdowns in every year of his career. Needless to say, he gets it done on the ground. He finished at quarterback 2 last year, and that's only because the game was canceled after the devastating injury to Damar Hamlin. Had Josh Allen played 17 games, he would have finished at the quarterback 1. Again, the last 3 years for Josh Allen, number one, and last year, number 2. Could have been number 1 again. I have him as my quarterback 1, but I couldn't blame you for taking number 2 or number 3 on my list. He was an A+ in pressure QBR and an A+ in big time throws. Having Stephon Diggs definitely helps. Speaking of Diggs seems fairly unhappy recently. I think they're going to be able to work it out, but this is definitely something to monitor. The biggest issue with Josh Allen is his ADP. You're going to have to use a second round pick to get him. It's a little high for me, but honestly, can't really blame you if you do it. I'm curious how long they're going to utilize his legs as often as they do. He's made a few comments about not knowing how long he's going to hold up rushing as often as he does. I kind of understand. He's a solid quarterback just throwing out of the pocket. Josh Allen does have a below average offensive line. That's probably why he runs it so much. Regardless, for this year, I think it's going to be great. Number 2 on my list, Patrick Mahomes. Where my homies? Where they at? Where they at? Where my homies? They up to no good? That was for you, Trevor. He gets it. He gets it. If we were talking about the regular NFL and not fantasy football, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, bar none. And I don't think it's particularly close, to be honest with you. But in fantasy football, though he does run the ball, he doesn't run it as much as Josh Allen does. But I don't blame you at all if you take Patrick Mahomes, number 1. He has proven he is a dominant quarterback. And if you want the best quarterback in the NFL, who am I to say no? Ignore the 17 game pace. That was for Josh Allen, and I forgot to switch it over. The names with Patrick Mahomes on the side, that's the ones we're looking at. Patrick Mahomes is unbelievable. He threw for over 5,000 yards for the second time in his career after losing Tyreek Hill. The collective world was doubting Patrick Mahomes. And not only does he throw for over 5,000 yards, he throws for 41 touchdowns. That's the second most in his career. And then to go on and win the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes is unrivaled as the best quarterback in the NFL. But in fantasy football, Josh Allen squeaks past him purely for rushing, honestly. Though Mahomes had a career high in rushing touchdowns with 4, Josh Allen's never had less than 6. Josh Allen's going to rush for an additional 350 yards a year. That's a lot in fantasy football. Don't get me wrong. 350 rushing yards is good. That's an A- by my metrics. It's just not top tier like Josh Allen or the next quarterback I have coming up. We call that a teaser in the industry. All in all, if you want Patrick Mahomes, you're going to have to pay up for him. Whereas Josh Allen is going at the end of the second round, Patrick Mahomes is going at the beginning of the second round. I mean, you didn't think he was going to be cheap, did you? Now you just have to decide whether or not you want him. I don't think I'll be grabbing him because the beginning of the second round is a little early for me. But can't blame me if you do. I'll be nervous playing against you. You'll definitely have a better quarterback than I will. The fact that this man won a Super Bowl with Juju Smith-Schuster as his top wide receiver, wild. I mean, everybody knows Travis Kelce is basically his best wide receiver, but he's a tight end technically, so get off my back. Now that Juju's gone, who's going to step up? Kadarius Toney? Sky Moore? Rookie Rashid Rice? Who knows? All I know is Patrick Mahomes is going to be the best quarterback in the NFL, and he's a threat to go to the Super Bowl again. The Chiefs have a dominant offensive line, the third best in the league. Man, times have changed. I still remember Patrick Mahomes running for his life against my Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. Ooh, that championship feels so good. I'm not gonna lie. Go Bucks! His offensive line was awful in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. But they made dramatic changes, and last year they were great. 4th overall. And coming into this year, they're going to be great. 3rd overall. Got to protect your $500 million man. If they're going to pay him that much, they might as well protect him. Quarterback number 3, Jalen Hurts. Hurts is another dual threat quarterback. He's fantastic on the ground, and he's pretty solid in the air. He got a lot better last year, but he's still not to the Josh Allen level of throwing. Like Josh Allen, he's run for 750 or more yards for back-to-back years. So the rushing's there. Let's check on the passing. Where Josh Allen was throwing 35, 36, 37 touchdowns, Jalen Hurts is throwing 22 and 16. Now, mind you, he did take a nice jump from 2 years ago to last year, so I give him credit for that. 22 is a lot less than 35. Yes, I know he only played 15 games. I'm getting there. He was on pace for 25 touchdowns. Not terrible considering his rushing touchdowns. He was on pace to eclipse the 4,000 mark if he would have stayed healthy and played the last 2 games. Unfortunately, he went down to injury. Obviously ended up coming back and being fine going to the Super Bowl. I was impressed by the dramatic increase in passing yards, but adding a beast like A.J. Brown will do that. I actually think Jalen Hurts still can take a step forward. Hurts also got an A in deep touchdowns. My man's accurate downfield. What keeps Jalen Hurts in tier 1 is all those rushing touchdowns, baby. That's where Jalen Hurts stands out. 13 rushing touchdowns. That far and away clears Josh Allen. And he gets them in such an unconventional way. Last year, the Philadelphia Eagles, when they got to the 1 yard line, just pushed Jalen Hurts in. I'm expecting to see a lot more this year because it was unbelievable how effective it was. It worked like almost every time. So why wouldn't you keep doing it? I wonder why more teams don't do that. Oh yeah. It's probably because the Philadelphia Eagles have the best offensive line in the league. It ain't tricking if you got it. You know what I mean, buddy? When you got the best offensive line in the league, you can do things that nobody else can because you're the best. You know, this team was so good that sometimes they'd be up by so much, Jalen Hurts wouldn't even play in the 4th quarter. I'd be like, Jalen, I know you have 30 fantasy points, buddy, but can you get back in? I need 3 more to get the dub. Understandably so, they kept him out. I'm not mad at it. You got to do what you got to do. But now that their schedule's tougher, he might be playing the whole game. And who knows how good he could be if he plays all 4 quarters. Out of the 3, I like him as a value pick. Possibly get him in the 3rd. They did lose their offensive coordinator. He got replaced by the quarterback coach, Brian Johnson. Apparently he helped develop Jalen Hurts, so I think they should be lock and step. He should be fine. We'll see how that goes. Big fan of Hurts. Looking forward to what he could do this year. Starting off tier 2, quarterback 4, Joe Burrow, a.k.a. Joe Cool. Well-deserved name. That dude is smooth. Joe Burrow is an elite pocket passer, and he gets a little bit done with his legs. He has 2 elite options at wide receiver, Lamar Chase and T. Higgins, one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. And Joe Mixon is a solid pass-catching running back. Joe Burrow's had back-to-back years with 34 or more touchdowns. Solid. 4,400 passing yards or more. That's not bad. I like that. If you're going to be a pocket passer, you're going to need to throw for well over 4,000 yards. 44, 4,500, that's not bad. Especially when you're throwing up another 35 touchdowns. Not to mention his receivers got injured. So not having Jamar Chase, one of the best receivers in the league for 4 games last year, definitely going to bring down your numbers a little bit. Basically, he's still got room to go up. And he bumped up his rushing last year as well. Joe Burrow tore his meniscus his rookie year and only got to play 10 games. I was concerned that that would affect his rushing when he came back. And though he didn't rush a lot in 2021, last year he over doubled his rushing yards. Went from 118 to 257. That's a pretty solid jump. What's really impressive though, he went up to 5 rushing touchdowns. That's pretty good. For a quarterback? Nice. That's an A in my metrics. Joe Burrow is an incredible quarterback, but he's more of a pocket quarterback than he is a rushing quarterback like Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Patrick Mahomes is a slight exception. Though he runs more than Joe Burrow, he also throws for a lot more yards. Patrick Mahomes is in the 5,000s, whereas Joe Burrow is in the middle of the 4,000s. Patrick Mahomes threw for 41 touchdowns last year, whereas Joe Burrow threw for 35. Burrow did add 5 on the ground, but Patrick isn't a slouch on the ground. So I have Joe Burrow in a lower tier. He does have some upside, which is rushing, and I do think that both his passing yards and his passing touchdowns have some upside. Hopefully he can move up next year. His offensive line got a lot better. They went from 28th to 17. Adding Orlando Brown will do that. They took Brown from the Chiefs. Hurts a little bit. They gotta stay competitive though. The better the offensive line, the better the team functions. I think this should really help Joe Burrow. Quarterback number 5, Lamar Jackson. The contract situation is finally over. Lamar Jackson got paid, as he should have been. Now we can talk about football. Lamar Jackson is elite on the ground. It's okay in the air. Lamar Jackson's only played 12 games the last 2 years. According to Draft Sharks, in December 12, 2021, Lamar Jackson suffered an ankle sprain, grade 2, in week 14 against the Browns that caused him to miss the rest of the season. Then in 2022, also in December, Jackson got a knee PCL sprain, grade 2, which caused him to miss the final 6 games of the season. There is some speculation on whether or not this was contract related. Honestly, I don't know. From a contract standpoint, do you really want to rush back and then play worse so that they can offer you less money? So I get it from that aspect. But he's also actually hurt. It's not like he had a hangnail. He was actually hurt and couldn't play. So I'll let y'all speculate on that. All I know is this man got paid. Now, does that cause him to fight through a couple injuries? I don't know. You do whatever you think is right, Lamar. All I know is when you're on the field, you're electric. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards twice in his career. And in the last 2 years where he only played 12 games, he had 760 rushing yards. That's right there with Josh Allen. And he played 4 less games. If he kept up this pace, he would have rushed for over 1,000 yards, almost 1,100. That being said, unlike Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson's passing yards have always been dramatically lower. The most he's thrown for his career is 3,100, and that's nowhere close to the elites in this league. Now, obviously, his rushing definitely vaults him up, but from a passing yards aspect, he's never been that dude. He was definitely that dude when he won the MVP. Not from a passing yard standpoint, but from a passing touchdown standpoint. Lamar's first year where he was the guy was 2017. Though he only passed for 3,100 yards, he had 36 touchdowns and 1,200 rushing yards. Oh yeah, and an additional 7 touchdowns on the ground. Is this still in Lamar Jackson? Yes, I think so. Lamar Jackson has #1 quarterback upside. The Ravens know that Lamar Jackson hasn't been an elite, high-volume passing quarterback, but they think he can be, which is why they brought in a new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. Todd Monken is a pass-friendly offensive coordinator. I think that the attempts go up. I think they push it down the field, and they're not predominantly rushing how they always have been. The Ravens also finally got Lamar Jackson a weapon or 2. Rashad Bateman's banged up at the moment, but he'll be back. The Ravens signed Odell Beckham Jr. They might have overpaid him, but he's there, and Lamar Jackson's happy. And they drafted Zay Flowers in the first round. Finally. That's to go with the already amazing Mark Andrews, who's the second best tight end in the league. And not to mention J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are both solid running backs who never get the ball thrown to them. I honestly don't even know if they can catch because it never happens. They never throw them the ball. Hopefully, Todd Monken is more balanced and gets it to the running backs as well. But I say all that to say this. Lamar Jackson is a great quarterback with unbelievable upside. If he stays healthy, he could be the best quarterback in the league. Did I mention that they had a good offensive line? Can't forget about that. The 4th best offensive line in the league. Yes, I know they've gotten worse. They went from 2 to 4, but still a top 5 offensive line. That'll help. Quarterback 6, Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert had a rough year last year, and the main issues were injuries all around. Receivers got injured. He got injured. Though he played all 17 games, he was banged up the whole time. They were playing against the Chiefs in week 2. We watched him fracture his rib on live television, and he only missed 1 play. That's tough. But that will affect how you play. 2 years ago, Justin Herbert rushed for 302 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the year before that, he rushed for 5 touchdowns. But last year, 0. Goose egg. Nada. Nothing. I wonder why. Probably because he had fractured ribs and didn't want to get hit again. Understandably so. But if you can't run the ball, what are you going to do? Throw it. He still managed to throw it for over 4,700 yards. Yeesh! For the most attempts in his career. Probably because he couldn't run it. This would have been more if his team was actually healthy. Mike Williams missed 4 games, and he was knocked out of the 5th. Keenan Allen, his best receiver, was out for almost half a year. He missed 7 full games and got knocked out of the 8th. Well, when you don't have your best wide receiver, you're going to take a little bit of a step back. And he still threw for 4,700 yards. It probably hurt him in the touchdown area, which is why he only had 25, but he comes back healed up, and I like his upside. He has a new offensive coordinator. Joe Lombardi's out, and Kellen Moore comes in. Previous offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. Kellen Moore loves to pass the ball. In fact, 3 of his 4 Cowboys offenses ranked top 10 in both attempts and yards. I think he may unlock Justin Herbert, take him to the next level. And the 9th best offensive line should help keep Justin Herbert upright. That's much better than last year. They were 17th. Now it's time to drop down into tier 3. Quarterback 7, Justin Fields. Justin Fields is another dual threat quarterback, but like Lamar Jackson, he gets dramatically more done on the ground than he does in the air. Unlike Lamar Jackson, he doesn't throw for heavy touchdowns yet. While he gets an F in passing yards, he's never thrown more than 2,300. That's pretty bad. But his rushing yards are incredible. He had almost 1,150 rushing yards, and he missed 2 games. If he would have played those games, he would have had almost 1,300 rushing yards. That's kind of crazy for a running back. And yes, his passing needs to go up, both in yards and in touchdowns. But he did rush for 8 touchdowns. He started the year off terrible. Weeks 1 through 5, he was the 24th best quarterback. But weeks 7 through 17, he was the 2nd best quarterback, only behind Patrick Mahomes. Now that's great company to keep. Anytime you're in the same sentence as Patrick Mahomes, you're doing something right. And he got there due to his heavy usage on the ground. He was unbelievable on the ground. It did cause him to have a lot of turnovers. He had just as many fumbles as he did passing touchdowns, 17. Total turnovers, 28. He's got to bring that down. The team had an opportunity to draft a quarterback with the number 1 overall pick this year. They decided against it. They traded that pick and decided to actually help this quarterback see what he has. He clearly proved that he can be special. How special? I don't know. But I think it's worth finding out. And so do the Bears. Which is why in their trade, they made sure they got back a proven receiver. DJ Moore should really help open up this offense. I'm not as excited for him as a fantasy wide receiver, but I am very excited for what he does to Justin Fields. Justin Fields needed a true number 1. Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool aren't true number 1 receivers. DJ Moore is. And I think that's going to help Darnell Mooney slide into being wide receiver 2 and Claypool being a wide receiver 3, as they should be. I'm very excited for this offense. I think he has a solid floor due to his rushing and a crazy upside if he increases his passing and keeps his rushing. Looking forward to this year. Well worth the draft pick to take a shot. And he has a below average offensive line, down at 21. Quarterback 8, Trevor Lawrence. Every time I see Trevor Lawrence, I think of Remember the Titans. Sunshine! But I prefer the name, The Prince That Was Promised. Shout out to Nick Wright, you the man. Trevor Lawrence had a rough start to last year. From weeks 1 through 5, he was quarterback 15. But as the year went on, a prince emerged. From week 6 to 18, he jumped to quarterback 6. Not bad. Now we're talking fantasy football, so that playoff game didn't count for us, but that was a nice comeback. He did kind of cause them to be down, but great comeback. Last year under Doug Peterson, he took another step forward, jumping up to over 4,000 yards and over doubling his touchdowns to 25. He's pretty solid on the ground. I have him as a B+. He rushed for almost 300 yards last year. The 5 rushing touchdowns is great though. He also managed to drop his interceptions in half. Went from 17 to 8. Pretty good. If Trevor Lawrence is going to take that next step, he's either need to get better on the ground or in the air. Most likely the air, because they want to keep him healthy. So the Jaguars went out and got Calvin Ridley. It's been a while since we've seen him play, but he has major upside. He's a deep touchdown threat, and I definitely think that should be able to help Trevor Lawrence unlock his potential. With Calvin Ridley on one side, Christian Kirk on the other, and Travis Etienne in the backfield, this offense is starting to come together. I also like the signing of Evan Ingram. I think all around this team's going to get better, and that should help Trevor. What won't be doing him any favors is that offensive line. 26th in the league. They dropped from a solid offensive line at 19 down to 26. Ugh. Trevor's going to have to get the ball out faster. Or dump it down to your running back. Why don't y'all throw the ball to Travis Etienne more? Figure that out, Jaguars. Quarterback number 9, Geno Smith. Comeback player of the year, Geno Smith. Finished at quarterback 5 last year. And that was probably the most unexpected thing to happen last year. Well, it was either that or Russell Wilson playing like garbage all year. I'm going to go with Geno because I like to be positive. Geno was really incredible last year. A- in QBR. A- in pressure QBR. A+ in deep QBR. And A+ in deep touchdowns. My man is accurate. He has an incredible supporting cast. A big red zone threat in DK Metcalf. A shifty burner in Tyler Lockett. And the Seahawks drafted Jackson Smith-Njigba in the first round. JSN, the best receiver drafted this year. And explosive running backs. Kenneth Walker has incredible breakaway potential. And the Seahawks drafted a pass-catching running back in Zach Charbonnet in the second round. That'll help. The team had a clear opportunity to draft a quarterback to replace Geno Smith. Seahawks decided against it and signed Geno Smith to a 3-year, $75 million deal. It's not breaking the bank, but it is a positive sign that they paid this man. Geno easily had the best season of his career. 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 360 yards on the ground. Geno can move a little bit for an old man. I mean, he's only 32, but still. And on top of all of that, he's going in the 11th round. He's basically free. And I actually think he has some serious upside. For those of you who don't know, Geno Smith was projected to be the #1 overall pick in 2013. No, I'm not making it up. Even Stephen A. Smith was saying it on First Take. Back in 2013, it was apparently almost a given that he would go #1. And he slid all the way down to the second round. He went 39th overall. He started 2 years and got benched after one of his teammates broke his jaw. That's embarrassing. I can't blame them for benching him though. I mean, his first year he had 3,000 yards and 21 interceptions. That's ugly. Then he turned into a journeyman. After riding the bench for 2 years on the Jets, he then played a year for the Giants. That's kind of awkward. He was a backup in the same stadium he was a starter in? For a different squad? Then he was a backup for the Chargers in 2018 until he got shipped to Seattle where he backed up Russell Wilson for 2 years. And then last year he came back with a vengeance to the note of comeback player of the year. I think Geno appreciates this opportunity and he's going to take full advantage of it. Last year he proved that he can be a starting quarterback. This year, I think he's going to be even better. I think he's got some serious upside. The only thing that really might hold them back is this terrible offensive line. 30th? Ugh. Quarterback 10, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott had a rough start last year. In the first game of the year, Dak Prescott fractured his thumb. He had to have a plate inserted into his thumb to stabilize the joint. Dallas didn't put him on IR, but it did cause him to miss 5 weeks. But when he came back from week 7 to 18, he was the 6th best quarterback in football. Not bad. But I can't help feeling like he left some meat on the bone. He only played 12 games in 2022, but if we look at this top row, it gives his 17-game pace, and he actually came down in yards and touchdowns, but dramatically increased in interceptions. Dak, how did you throw 15 interceptions in 12 games? That's over an interception a game. Tighten up. No wonder Dallas got rid of Kellen Moore, who wants to throw the ball all the time, and decided to allow Mike McCarthy to call plays. This should be interesting. McCarthy said that he wants to run the ball more, which should help his running backs, but I don't think it's going to help Dak. Unless he's going to have Dak run the ball more, which would be great for Dak, because as his career's gone on, he's decreased his rushing. In the first 3 years of Dak's career, he was rushing for almost 300 yards a year and 6 touchdowns. 6 touchdowns a year is fantastic. That's an A in my metrics. That was cut in half in 2019. And then after his injury in 2020, where he only played 5 games, his rushing touchdowns have dropped dramatically. He's had 1 rushing touchdown each of the last 2 years. That's pretty pedestrian. So if this new rushing offense includes Dak, I think that's going to be good. But if they're just going to have the running backs increase their volume, it may not really help Dak. I like to think that actions speak louder than words, especially when we're talking about what an NFL team thinks. And though they may be saying they don't want to throw the ball as much, the Cowboys signed Brandon Cooks to a 2-year, $40 million deal. His total contract may be 22nd overall, but at $20 million a year, he's the 14th highest paid wide receiver this year. I think they're going to use him, which will definitely help Dak. To be fair to the Cowboys, I can see why they would want to take the ball out of Dak's hands though. 15 interceptions is just outrageous. He did drop his fumbles from 14 to 4, but when you're throwing 15 interceptions, goodness gracious, that's definitely going to overshadow it. Not to mention that the Dallas Cowboys have the 6th best offensive line according to Pro Football Focus. Of course they want to run the ball. Their strength is their offensive line. This should be an interesting year for the Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? And that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to know my quarterbacks from 11 to 20, check them out right here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below. If you have any questions, hit me up.